But let's get to some NHL storylines quickly before we do that. How about Alex Ovechkin? 6 away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record. Scored another one against the Jets on Tuesday night. And so you're looking at the schedule, and you're like, okay, so how many games left in the season? And then he's got Minnesota, Buffalo, Boston.
Yeah.
On April 1st.
The
6
timing.
goals away. Mm-hmm. This could happen here.
I know. I mean, considering, too, I feel like this got brought up a couple weeks ago. I forgot who started this conversation. It was just like the reality of it happening in Boston. And we're just kind of like, we want Avi to succeed. But to do it here in TD Garden, that would be... I don't know how fans, like, how divided it would be. Fans would be losing it because of, like, the legacy of it, but then also it's just like, hey, that happened here in Boston. But it's getting so close, and this is something that people thought were going to stay pretty far away. Like everyone thought, in order to attain this goal, we got to see him come back next season. But you had a great conversation with Anson Carter talking about the fact that, like, not only can he hit this, but he can supersede this in the season to come or seasons to come.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about the record at this point. I mean, you know, barring anything catastrophic. I mean, it's going to happen. But I had another question for NHL analyst and former player Anson Carter on a recent episode. I did have one more question about Ovi. I think 1,000 goals is within the realm of possibility for him.
100%. Liam and I were joking about that about a month ago. Liam McHugh, my host there on NHL and TNT, we were joking about that, and we're being serious. Yeah. You know, I think 1,000 goals is definitely within reach for Ovi, 1,000%. You know, we're in a golden age right now where we're seeing these players, Ovi and Sidney Crosby in particular, where the league was locked out. I was still playing back then, and we were in a dark place. The quality of hockey was bad, clutching and grabbing. New Jersey brought the defensive style in, you know, sticks in guys' guts. It wasn't pretty hockey to watch or to play. And then we came without lockout. Sid came in the league. Ovi came in the league. That was almost like our Johnson and Bird era, like taking things to a whole different level. Now we're talking about Ovi potentially scoring 1,000 points. We're talking about Sidney Crosby now, you know, passing Wayne Gretzky as a 19th consecutive season with a point a game. And also, I believe Sid could catch Gordie Howe with most points by an individual in one organization if he keeps playing the next couple of years. So these are all milestones that we never thought would ever get touched. So I think as a hockey fan, we should sit back and just enjoy the moment because we're seeing some amazing hockey being played by tremendous athletes.
All right, Anson Carter on Alex Ovechkin potentially reaching the 1,000 goal mark. So Kasey's going to be 40 in September. You know, I don't know how many goals he's got left in the tank this year. You know, maybe he gets to... I don't know, 897 or whatever. So we're talking about like 3 to 4 more seasons, maybe 3.
I would say 4 to be safe, especially considering like what the East has presented itself to be this previous season. It's only going to get tighter. It's only going to get more difficult. You're looking at least 3 teams to make the right kind of moves to be that much more competitive next year. Yeah. So, I mean, to be safe, I would go with...
But 4 seasons, that's a lot, though. See, that changes my perspective a little bit, right? Because I look at, like, 3 seasons and say, all right, that's not as much mileage on the time, right? Like, you know, but a 4th season... So we're talking about a 44-year-old Alex Ovechkin. Dude's a bull.
Right.
Yeah, no question. So he's built for it. But that's, I mean, when you get into that territory, you know, that's a tough ask. But I don't know. I mean, he said absolutely.
Right. But if we say we reach into 4 years, like that year 4 might not need to be like a 20-goal season for him. Like say he stacks within the first 2-3 years, then that 4th year is really just kind of a polish off. You know, he doesn't have to play as much ice time. He's just 10 goals away, we say. That's doable. That's not as taxing on the body.
Yeah, but that would mean like we're talking like 30 next year at least. 30 again. 30 again.
Yeah, 3
you know
30-goal seasons.
That's I mean, even for him, and again, look, I don't know what year it was, but I was hosting a pre- and post-game show on Nesson, and we were having a discussion about Alex Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's record. I'm like, no shot, not happening. And then
calm down, everyone. I know, I'm still getting messages about it. I had him to score a goal this week, and I got like 3 messages. It was like, he's just not allowed to do what Gretzky did. And I was like, we don't have that control. Like, we got to let Ovechkin be Ovechkin, and the chase for greatness is very much beyond within reach. He's at 36 goals right now.
Right.
I mean, obviously 6 away from surpassing or, matching the record and doing his own thing. So 30 goals for 3 seasons in a row. And think about this. The Capitals being favored to go quite far this year.
Yeah.
They're going to try to make sure they have like at least 2 more deep runs after this. Like if there's anything, the Capitals have haunted me because we had a really bad playoff run against them. We being the Tampa Bay Lightning a couple years ago. I'm traumatized from it. Mm-hmm. But when they go on these tears, they're hard to get out of the playoff mix for at least 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Just thinking about, how is it going to happen? How is he going to break? Where is he going to break the record?
Ooh.
Will it be this year? I mean, there's still a possibility he might not do it this year.
True. Let me see this.
And again, like it depends on how close he is towards the end of the year, because you're thinking like, there might be some rests involved for a 39-year-old player. Again, the Capitals have designs on, making a deep run, I would imagine.
Right.
You don't want to, jeopardize his health, but the record is monumental. So when is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? That's the question. So just quickly,
I was going to say schedule up.
I've been writing things down.
What do you got? What do you got for us?
Well, I got, first of all, against Minnesota, the next opponent. He's got 20 goals in 24 games against them in his career, including 2 hat tricks. 32 regular season hat tricks in his career. 41 goals in 66 games against Buffalo, including 7 multi-goal games.
I can see a goal or 2 versus the Sabres. Their defense just kind of breaks down too much.
Right. I was also looking at their schedule. They have the Blackhawks coming up, I believe, right before or
April
after.
4th.
Yeah. He scored his 800th goal against Chicago. So that would be
an opportunity,
right? An opportunity against a team that's not very good. So based on history, it looks like that could happen. But let's say he's a goal away from tying or breaking the record, and you have an empty net.
No, it cannot be an empty netter.
It can't be,
no
right?
Way.
That's something you have to consider. And this is a guy who has the most empty net goals of all time. So I don't know how many he has this year. But yeah, so it's like, all right, the situation has to be right too for him to do it.
And I think his team is on board with trying to make that happen. I mean, what is more iconic for him outside of the empty net conversation? It's the one-timer.
Right.
And they don't have to particularly rely on it being on the power play. But considering Sabres, I mean, not saying that he's going to hit the record then, but you're talking about one of the most penalized teams in the NHL.
Right.
They're going to get a lot of power play opportunities, and they're going to try to dish it up to Ovechkin to make that work. But then you got the Blue Jackets back-to-back, April 12th and April 13th. And as exciting as the Blue Jackets have been to watch this year, they let up well over an average of like 3.2 goals per game. So that's somewhere else where he can just kind of like have his moments, have his opportunities. And depending on who's in goal, there's a lot of opportunities that come from that left side, which is a sweet spot. So, I mean, maybe I'm trying to be overly poetic about it, but I think it has to be a one-timer. They just have to figure out how to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Yep.
Home office, one-timer. It doesn't have to be on the power play, but it cannot be an empty net.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he's not coming off the ice if they have a power play opportunity, right? He's staying on for the full 2. He'll just hang and wait. But yeah, it's exciting. Records are made to be broken. I know that's cliche, but this is one record I just didn't see happening, because the game was so different back in the day when Gretzky played, and not diminishing his accomplishment by any means, but, you see goaltenders nowadays. They're huge. The pads are huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
The game is just so much different. And so...
I love that you mentioned that, though, because I think that's what's going to make the record breaking even sweeter.
Yeah.
Again, no offense to the previous accomplishments, but just think about it. Ovechkin's going to be 40 years old.
Right.
So he's been through the generational changes of the game and has still been able to have like a top tier game.
Yeah.
Like a 36 goal season. and counting after a ridiculous, pretty, rough injury to go through, bounce back as quickly as he did just to get right back into, the chase here. But also just thinking about how much the game has changed since Ovechkin put on his sweater for the Washington Capitals for the first time ever. I mean, that kind of escalates the accomplishment in my book.
Yeah, no question. And just fun with numbers, right? Just looking at some of the stats. I was looking at, his 889 goals as we record this, and I was looking at some of the splits and, what he's done against certain opponents. And then I said, you know what, I want to do, some fun things with the numbers, right? So I took away all of the goals he scored in his career against Western Conference teams.
Ooh.
And he has 617 against Eastern Conference teams. And that, I believe, ties him for 18th all time. If you just took those goals against the West away, he's still 18th all time. You know who he's tied with? It would be Sidney Crosby, which I thought was kind of funny.
That's actually really good to put out there.
Yeah.
Because when everyone compares, or when they talk about the empty netters, everything they tried to do to create degrees of separation for the record breaking, that's still a massive picture to paint there. Yeah. 600 plus. I mean, and you're barely seeing the West Coast teams when you really think about it. So if they were seeing them equally as much, it just shows you how balanced his game is. Or I almost want to say superior, but you know.
Or just
both.
The fact that you take that chunk of games and goals away and he's still...
There's not a severe dip. I mean, 600.
That's just remarkable. So, and again, it's great when the great ones stay great, right?
Yeah.
Like Tom Brady. All the way to the end. LeBron James, all the way to the end. Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, all the way and still going. Yep. With more left in the tank. I mean, you talk about Crosby's season. The fact that he's averaged, a point per game for the last 20 years. Which is
ridiculous.
He's on track to do that. I mean, that's just remarkable. It just speaks to the talent and the way that they take care of their bodies. They're still 39 years old. They're still, pushing 40. So it's not like you can just wing it at that point, you know, and that's what I mean by the great ones staying great. Just remarkable.
Yeah, it teaches you how much you have to relearn yourself and change everything. I remember when we actually interviewed Tom Brady about that, because the conversation when he switched teams is you're 40 and you're going north. How do you do it? And it was just the fact of not overthinking it, but just changing the product and changing, you don't need as much practice time. You might need more rehab time because the muscle memory already tells your body what it's going to do. You've been doing it for so long. So I wonder what things have changed in their routines, Ovechkin and Crosby and those guys, because I know with Brady it was he was still very meticulous, but it wasn't all about being on the field all the time. It was different ways of preparation as he started getting up there in age.
No question.